Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to World History AP. Today we're going to be talking about the first few vocabulary words and some beginnings of the Byzantine Empire. So our focus is on the Byzantine Empire and the growth of Eastern culture in the time period of 500 to 1450. So we'll look at three words. We'll look at Constantinople, we'll look at Hagia Sophia, and icon painting, so these three terms. And then we will also kind of look at a fourth term, Justinian, the Emperor Justinian of the Byzantine Empire, and look at his accomplishments in architecture and law and the military. So let's get to it. Constantinople is the capital of the Byzantine Empire. It's the main city in the Byzantine Empire. So what's the big deal? Well, Constantinople was made the city was named Constantinople after the Emperor Constantine from the name of Byzantium. And Byzantium and this area that it's located is right in a very key strategic location for control of a great number of peoples, control over peoples in Eastern Europe, in Asia Minor, on the west coast or on the east coast of the Mediterranean Sea, and made for a very good location for the center of the empire because of its access to trade at the terminus of the Silk Road, because of the great number of people who were around it, who they could then tax and use as a revenue source, and was a shift from the Roman Empire. So Constantinople was the capital city of the empire, and was the center of the Byzantine Empire, which lasted for 1,000 years. So a key city until it was overthrown by the Turks. So the next word that we're looking at, and really the word that we're kind of getting to here is Justinian, because Emperor Justinian made major accomplishments as one of the earlier Roman emperors, the Eastern Roman empires, or the Byzantine emperors. So Justinian was one of the most famous Byzantine emperors because of his accomplishments, mainly in architecture and law. So as far as architecture goes, he was able to kind of rebuild and restructure and make grand again the city of Constantinople. And one of these major pieces of architecture was the Hagia Sophia, which is a giant. Basically, the Hagia Sophia is a huge Christian church that was built in Constantinople. And so what's the significance of this? Hagia Sophia is kind of it shows the ability and the level of sophistication of the Byzantine Empire, because this was a church that was one of the largest churches that had ever been built, but also because it had this huge dome structure, which had never been built to this scale before, and was supported by pillars that this had never happened before. And so this church is still one of the modern wonders of the architectural world, and so much so that when the Turks did take over, they kept it up, and they just repurposed it into a mosque instead of a church. So this is Justinian's major impact as an emperor for architecture. His major impact in law is that he was able to codify or compile and make more simple and overarching the laws of the Roman Empire and shift them to the east. So the Justinian Code, or his code of laws, was seen as instrumental in providing uniform law throughout the Byzantine Empire, which was probably one of his greatest impacts as emperor. The third area is military. Justinian was very interested in attempting to reconquer the entire Western empire of Rome, which, as you remember, basically was all the area around the Mediterranean Sea. And Justinian spent a lot of money and time and resources in trying to do this, and was largely unsuccessful. So as a result, the Byzantine Empire never had the size that the Western Roman Empire had, but it did have a very solid political structure and was greatly admired for its architectural beauty. Which brings us, again, as we're talking about culture, to icon paintings. Icon paintings became a very popular form of art, and they were, in a way, a mix between kind of secular and religious ideas. Secular meaning more geared toward the non-religious aspect of life. So icon paintings were just very detailed and ornate drawings of religious figures, um, usually Jesus Christ himself, but oftentimes other religious figures from the Bible who were important to the Christian faith. And so these icon paintings became a very characteristic and key form of artwork for the Byzantine Empire. And they did not usually focus on the death of Christ. They focused more on the grand majesty of Christ. And so these icon paintings were used to adorn um, churches and were kind of seen as a way to worship. So icon paintings were characteristics of the Byzantine Empire, and as the Byzantine Empire spread and influenced the rest of Eastern Europe, they became characteristic of the Eastern Orthodox Church, which, as time went on, in about the year 1000, 1050 or so, they split off of the Roman Catholic Church. So it became distinctly Eastern Orthodox um, religious painting. So all right, there was 4 terms that we looked at, and I hope you continue to be awesome. Stay tuned. We'll do it again soon.